After 25 years of marriage, I thought I knew my wife completely. But one trip changed everything. My name is Michael Reed. I'm 50 years old, a senior operations manager at a manufacturing company in Indiana. I've spent my entire adult life doing what men like me are supposed to do: work hard, stay steady, and build something that lasts. I met my wife, Laura, in college. She had this easy laugh that filled a room and a way of making even silence feel warm. We married young, built our first home on a patch of land her father helped us buy, and started raising 3 incredible kids. Now, 25 years later, the mortgage is paid, the grass is trimmed, and the house echoes with the kind of quiet that comes when your children start to live their own lives. My oldest, Ryan, is an engineer out in Denver. My middle son, Evan, is finishing his MBA, sharp and ambitious, and my daughter, Sophie, our youngest, is in nursing school, kind-hearted, full of empathy. They're good kids, respectful, grounded, the kind of children that make you proud of every sacrifice you ever made. And Laura, she's been the glue that's held us together. For most of our marriage, she was a stay-at-home mom, the kind who remembered every birthday, packed lunches with little notes inside, and somehow kept our house looking like something out of a home magazine, even when the world outside was chaos. We were partners in everything. When my hours got long, she picked up the slack. When money was tight, she stretched every dollar until it begged for mercy. I never doubted her loyalty. Not once. Not after all those years of late nights, layoffs, and life's curveballs. I believed we'd built something unbreakable, a fortress made of trust, love, and the quiet, unspoken kind of commitment you don't see much anymore. And for a long time, it really felt that way. Our evenings were predictable in the best way. Dinner at 6, conversation about the kids, a glass of wine for her, a cold beer for me. We'd sit on the back porch and watch the sun fade behind the maple trees, talking about everything and nothing at all. Then, around a year ago, I noticed something shift. At first, it was subtle. Laura started going to yoga twice a week, something new, she said, to help with stress. Then came the girls' nights, which I encouraged. After all, she'd spent decades devoted to us. She deserved to have time for herself. She started dressing differently, too. A little more stylish, a little more confident. I noticed new perfumes, new jewelry, nothing extravagant, just newer, fresher. When she'd head out, she'd give me that same smile I'd known since college: warm, reassuring, familiar. And I'd think, she's earned this freedom. After 25 years, there's no reason to question it. I told myself, every good marriage goes through changes, that independence is healthy. And truthfully, I meant it. Because in my mind, Laura was still the same woman who stood beside me when I had nothing. The same woman who cried with me when we lost my father. The same woman who stayed up all night when our daughter had pneumonia. You don't question someone who's been there through all that. You trust them, completely. But sometimes, trust can blind you. It was small things. Really. Her phone started staying face down on the table. She'd leave for errands that used to take an hour, now taking 3. And when she came home, there was a lightness in her voice, a kind of giddy distraction I couldn't quite place. I brushed it off, because I knew my wife. At least, I thought I did. Even our kids noticed the change. Ryan joked once, "Mom's going through her freedom phase." We all laughed. I laughed the hardest. Because that's what you do when something deep down doesn't sit right. You laugh at it, so you don't have to face it. But in quiet moments, when the house was still and the TV was off, I'd catch myself wondering, why was she smiling at her phone like that? Why did she start using a password on it after all these years? And then I'd shut those thoughts down as fast as they came. Because nothing poisons a marriage faster than suspicion. That's what I told myself. Laura had given her entire adult life to our family. She'd earned her independence. And I wasn't about to be the kind of husband who policed his wife's happiness. Besides, if I've learned anything in 50 years, it's that when you start looking for trouble, you'll always find it even if it isn't there. So I didn't look. Not once. I told myself I'd built something stronger than doubt. A life too solid to be shaken by shadows. A fortress that no storm could reach. But I was wrong. I was so very wrong. A few weeks later, Laura came into the kitchen one morning with that look she used to have when she'd already made up her mind about something. She poured herself a cup of coffee, sat across from me, and said it as casually as if she were suggesting we repaint the living room. "Mike," she said softly, "I think I need a trip. Just me. A few days somewhere quiet. I just need to clear my head." At first, I didn't think much of it. Everyone needs a break sometimes. She'd been through years of routine raising kids, managing the house, putting everyone else first. If anyone had earned some peace, it was her. "Where to?" I asked. Smiling. "Charleston," she replied. "I've always wanted to go. The architecture, the ocean, the old streets. It just feels right." I nodded, proud of myself for being supportive. "You deserve it. Take a few days. Relax. Enjoy yourself. We'll handle things here." She reached across the table, her fingers brushing mine. That same soft smile that had once made my heart race. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You always understand." That night, she booked her flights. The next morning, she was already making lists what to pack, what she'd need. And for the next week, the house buzzed with the energy of her anticipation. The kids were happy for her too. Ryan joked that she'd come back with a southern accent. Sophie told her to take pictures of everything. Evan promised to cook dinner while she was gone, something that made us all laugh because he couldn't boil water without supervision. It felt good, actually, seeing her excited, seeing all of us rally around her. For once, it felt like life had found its balance again. The morning of her flight came faster than expected. The house was full of movement bags, zipped, coffee cups half finished, everyone talking over one another. We all piled into the SUV, laughing, teasing, playing our usual roles like a family out of a commercial. At the terminal, Laura hugged each of the kids tightly. Sophie lingered a little longer, whispering something in her ear that made Laura smile. When it was my turn, I pulled her close, inhaling that new perfume she'd started wearing, something floral, sharper than what she used to like. "Have a great trip," I said. "You've earned this." She smiled, kissed my cheek, and said, "I'll call every night." And then she was gone just like that. The drive home felt quieter without her. But it wasn't sad quiet. Just different. I told myself this was what growth looked like. Two people who trusted each other enough to live separate moments without fear. That evening, right on time, the phone rang. Laura sounded happy, relaxed. She said her room had an ocean view, that the sunset was beautiful, and that she'd just come back from a little seafood restaurant by the pier. "I miss you," she said softly. "Give the kids a hug for me." We talked about the weather, the hotel, her plans for tomorrow. It all sounded perfect. The next night, she called again, same time, same cheerful tone. She'd had a spa day, tried shrimp and grits for the first time, and even joined a yoga class by the water. She laughed a lot, told me she felt like herself again. I listened, smiling, genuinely happy to hear her voice at peace. But something about the call felt lighter. Not in a good way, more like it was floating just above the truth. When I asked simple things, "What's the name of the restaurant?" or "Who'd you meet at yoga?" she'd hesitate for just a second too long. Then she'd laugh it off, change the subject, tell me how beautiful the city was. I told myself I was overthinking it. She was tired. That was all. By the third night, her texts came later. "Had dinner. Headed to bed. Love you." Short. Simple. No photos. No details. Just words. And then, there were little things, the perfume she mentioned buying, though she'd packed plenty. The way she used the hotel Wi-Fi instead of her usual number to call, even through the phone. I could sense something shifting. That invisible thread that connects two people. It didn't feel as tight anymore. Still, I pushed those thoughts aside, because doubt is a dangerous seed, and I refused to plant it. Sophie told me that night, "Mom sounds so happy. It's good to hear her laugh like that." And I nodded, smiling for my daughter's sake. Because that's what fathers do. We keep the ground steady, even when it starts to shake. Later, lying in bed, I scrolled through the photos Laura had sent. The beach, a drink on a table, the edge of a balcony. None of them had her in them. Just surroundings. Like someone showing proof of a place rather than sharing a memory. I stared at those photos longer than I care to admit, waiting for that familiar comfort to wash over me. It didn't. Instead, there was an emptiness in my chest I couldn't quite name. I told myself not to worry. After all, what could possibly go wrong on a solo trip? By the third night, the house felt emptier than usual. Dinner was quiet. The kind of quiet that settles in when someone's presence lingers even after they've left. Sophie was scrolling through her phone, smiling at a photo Laura had sent of a sunset over the water. Evan was loading the dishwasher, humming to himself, and I was sitting at the table, staring at my plate, trying to convince myself that everything was fine. It was Thursday morning when the idea came to me. I was drinking coffee, half listening to the morning news. When Sophie walked in, she asked, "Dad, when's Mom coming back again?" "Saturday." I said, "Why?" She smiled. "You miss her." "Don't you?" I laughed softly. "Maybe a little." That's when she said it, the sentence that changed everything. "Then why don't we surprise her?" I looked up. "Surprise her? Yeah," she said, her eyes bright. "We could fly down there, show up at her hotel, take her to dinner. You know how much she'd love that?" At first, I brushed it off, but the idea lingered. It was sweet, thoughtful. The kind of thing a good husband, a trusting husband would do. "Could we even pull that off?" Evan asked. "Joining in. Flights. Hotel. All that? Sure we can," I said, standing up. "If we book today, we could be there by tomorrow evening. Surprise her Saturday morning." Ryan, who was on speakerphone from Denver, immediately jumped in. "Dad, do it. She'll never expect it. Mom loves surprises." I could hear the excitement in their voices. And for the first time all week, the house came alive again. We sat around the kitchen island, Sophie on her laptop, Evan searching for flights, me pretending I wasn't nervous. Within an hour, we had it all lined up: 4 seats to Charleston, 1 night in a nearby hotel, and a plan that felt foolproof. Sophie grinned as she hit the confirm booking button. "Mom's gonna cry when she sees us." And I laughed, genuinely laughed, because it felt good to do something kind, something loving, something that reminded me of who we used to be. That night, we packed light. Evan printed out the hotel reservation for the Ocean View Grand Resort, the same one Laura had mentioned in her texts. Sophie even packed a small bouquet she planned to give her mother. We sat together in the living room, imagining her reaction: the tears, the laughter, the hugs. Evan yoked. "She'll probably be in a bathrobe, face mask on, freaking out when we barge in." We all laughed. It felt like the kind of family moment you'd see in a movie. Simple, pure, the kind that makes you believe everything's right with the world. Friday morning came early. We loaded into the SUV, caught our flight, and by afternoon, we were stepping out into the warm Carolina air. The city was beautiful: cobblestone streets, the faint smell of salt and magnolia, sunlight bouncing off white columns. For a few hours, everything felt perfect. We had dinner near the pier, talking about how we'd do it. Evan suggested calling from the lobby to have her come down. Sophie thought we should have flowers delivered to her room, then walk in behind the bellhop. I just smiled, soaking it all in. "Let's keep it simple," I said finally. "We'll go straight to her room. Knock once. Surprise her." Sophie raised an eyebrow. "You sure she won't be mad? We didn't warn her." "She'll love it," I said. "She deserves something nice, something unexpected." That night, back at our small hotel, I couldn't sleep. I kept picturing her face, the way her eyes would widen, her hands covering her mouth in shock before breaking into that beautiful laugh. For the first time in weeks, I felt like myself again, like a husband doing something good, something that mattered. When morning came, the sky was flawless, pale blue with streaks of gold from the rising sun. We grabbed breakfast at a cafe by the water. Sophie filmed us joking about the surprise. Evan said, "This is gonna be epic." Ryan texted from Denver, "Get it on video. Mom's gonna lose it." As we drove toward the resort, the energy in the car was light and happy. I remember thinking, this, right here, is what family feels like. That unspoken unity, that joy of doing something together just to make someone else smile. The Ocean View Grand Resort came into view, standing tall and elegant against the ocean. White pillars, manicured lawns, the sound of seagulls overhead. We parked, grabbed the bouquet, and walked toward the lobby, a family ready to deliver a moment of pure love. I remember the front desk clerk smiling as we explained our plan. She thought it was adorable, a husband surprising his wife after 25 years. And in that moment, I felt proud. Proud of my family. Proud of the life I thought we'd built. Proud of the woman I was about to surprise. As we stepped into the elevator, Sophie whispered, "Dad, this is going to be the best moment of her life." I smiled, my chest warm with anticipation. We just wanted to make her smile, I said softly. And as the elevator doors closed, I had no idea, absolutely no idea, that we were about to destroy her world. The elevator ride to the 4th floor felt like something out of a dream. Light laughter, whispered plans, the scent of flowers in Sophie's hands. None of us knew we were walking straight into a nightmare. The hallway was quiet, just the distant hum of air conditioning and the faint sound of the ocean beyond the balcony doors. Sophie was holding up her phone, ready to record. Evan was grinning, whispering, "She's gonna freak out when she sees us." I slid the keycard into the slot. A soft green light flashed. The lock clicked open, and then, silence. I pushed the door gently, still smiling, still mid-laugh. The room opened before us in slow motion, and the first thing I heard stopped me cold. It wasn't music. It wasn't television. It was a sound no husband should ever have to hear. Low, rhythmic, breathless. The kind of sound that doesn't belong to a stranger's room. The kind that cuts through your chest like a blade. For a second, my mind refused to understand. I thought maybe it was the TV. Maybe she'd left something playing. But then Sophie gasped. A small, strangled sound that shattered the last illusion I had. I looked up, and there she was, Laura, my wife. The woman I'd loved for 25 years. The mother of my children, naked, moving against a man I'd never seen before, his hands on her hips, her head tilted back. The morning sunlight pouring through the balcony doors made it all look cruelly clear, too real to deny, too vivid to misinterpret. My body went cold. It was as if every cell inside me froze at once. Time stopped. Everything slowed. Her voice, his breath, Sophie's trembling hand still holding the phone. Then Laura turned. Her eyes met mine. The sound she made wasn't human, a mix of shock, terror, and guilt all crashing into one broken cry. "Mike!" she screamed. The man, mid-40s. Fit. Dark hair. A wedding ring glinting on his finger, froze. Then panic set in. He stumbled back, reaching for the sheet, mumbling something I couldn't hear over the blood pounding in my ears. Behind me, Evan swore under his breath. Sophie's hand shook so hard the camera jerked. But she didn't stop recording. Evan stepped forward to shield her view. But it was too late. The damage was done. I stood there still, silent, staring. 25 years collapsed into dust right in front of me. The man tried to speak. "Hey, look." "Man," but I didn't let him finish. My fist moved before my mind did. I felt bone and blood. The crack of contact. The sting in my knuckles. He stumbled backward, clutching his face. Fear written all over him. Laura screamed, grabbing the sheet, wrapping it around herself as if modesty mattered now. "Mike, please," she cried, her voice trembling. "It's not what." "Don't," I said, my voice low, shaking. "Don't you dare. Because there's nothing to explain when you've already seen everything." Evan grabbed my shoulder, trying to calm me. "Dad, let's go." But I couldn't move. Not yet. I looked at the man again. The stranger who just detonated my life. "Who are you?" I demanded. He hesitated, then muttered, Robert Lang. "You're married," I said, staring at his hand. He flinched. "Please." Get out," I hissed. "Before I do something you can't take back." He grabbed his things and bolted, half-dressed, out the door. And then it was just us, me, my kids, and the woman who'd burned everything we'd built. Laura stood there sobbing, clutching the sheet. Mascara streaked down her cheeks. "Please, Mike, let me explain." Explain. That word again. as if words could rebuild the pieces scattered around us. Sophie's voice broke through the silence, soft and trembling. I recorded everything. Laura turned toward her, horrified. You what? Sophie's eyes filled with tears. I didn't mean to, I just, good. I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. Send it to me. Laura froze, realizing what that meant. In that moment, something inside me changed. It wasn't just anger anymore. It wasn't heartbreak, it was clarity. Cold. Sharp. Permanent clarity. I looked at her one last time, the woman who'd shared my life. My bed. My dreams, and all I saw was a stranger. We're leaving. I said. Evan put an arm around Sophie and guided her toward the door. I followed. The room behind us still heavy with the smell of perfume and betrayal. Laura's voice cracked as we stepped into the hall. Mike, please, don't go like this. But I didn't look back, because I knew the moment I did, I might never leave. As the elevator doors closed, I caught one last reflection in the mirrored wall, my daughter crying, my son stone-faced, and me, standing between them. No longer a husband, just a man hollowed out by truth. In that moment, 25 years of love turned into something else, something cold, something sharp, something permanent. The flight home was silent. Not the peaceful kind of silence that settles between people who understand each other, no. This was the heavy kind. The kind that fills your lungs with grief every time you try to breathe. Laura called. Again and again. I watched her name light up on my phone until I finally turned it off. I wasn't ready to hear excuses. I wasn't ready to hear the voice that had lied so easily. When we landed, it was late. The drive home felt endless. Every street, every stoplight, every familiar landmark looked the same. But everything inside of us had changed. The house was exactly as we'd left it. Her coffee mug still on the counter. Her book still open on the nightstand. It was eerie, like walking into a museum of the life I used to have. Evan carried Sophie's bag upstairs. She didn't say a word. Connor always, the protector, pulled me aside and said quietly, Dad, you should talk to a lawyer. First thing in the morning. He was right. That night, when the house finally fell still, I sat alone in the living room. The only light came from the glow of my laptop screen. I opened the video, watched it once, then again, every frame burning itself into my memory. Not for pain, but for proof. Then I began to search. It didn't take long to find him. Robert Lang, regional sales director, Midwest Insurance Group, married, father of 3. His smiling family stared back at me from his profile picture, his wife's arm around his shoulder. Kids in matching shirts. My jaw tightened. I clicked through his posts, his comments, his life. There she was, Laura, commenting, reacting, liking his photos. Their connection dated back months, maybe longer. Piece by piece, I built what I would later call the file. Screenshots, the video, dates, receipts, LinkedIn messages, every detail a brick in the wall I was constructing, not out of revenge, but out of resolve. By dawn, I had everything, and for the first time since that hotel room, I felt steady. At 9 a.m., I walked into the office of Margaret Fielding, a divorce attorney recommended by a friend of Evan's. She was calm, sharp, the kind of woman who didn't need to raise her voice to command attention. I handed her the flash drive. She watched the video in silence. Then she looked at me. This, she said, is as clear-cut as it gets. Infidelity. Fully documented. Both parties identifiable. You have leverage, a lot of it. Her words echoed in my mind. Leverage. That was the turning point. For the first time since the world fell apart, I wasn't the victim. I was in control. When she asked what I wanted, I told her plainly. The house? The savings? The retirement? She can have whatever's left. Margaret nodded slowly. Impressed. You're handling this well. I looked her in the eye and said, I didn't raise my voice. I raised my standards. Laura came home 2 days later. The sound of her car in the driveway hit like thunder after a long, waiting storm. She walked through the front door slowly. Eyes red. Shoulders trembling under the weight of shame. For a moment, she looked like a stranger in her own house. Hesitant. Uncertain. Small. Mike, she whispered. Please, Can we talk? We were all there, me, Evan, Sophie, and Connor sitting in the living room. Not a word between us. Just silence. Heavy. Deliberate. I pointed to the empty chair across from me. Sit. She obeyed, folding her hands in her lap like a child waiting for punishment. Her voice cracked as she began. I know what you saw was terrible, unforgivable. But please, let me explain. Connor cut her off, his tone like ice. Explain why you were in bed with someone else. In the same hotel. You said you needed to clear your head in. Laura winced, tears spilling down her cheeks. It was a mistake, she stammered. I wasn't thinking. I leaned forward, my voice calm, too calm. Explain you had the right to leave. Laura, you had the right to tell me you weren't happy. But you didn't. You chose to betray. She shook her head, sobbing. It didn't mean anything. Stop. I said. One word. Sharp enough to silence her. I reached for the remote and pressed play. The video filled the screen crystal clear. Undeniable. The room was quiet except for the sound of her own voice echoing back at her. Her laughter. Her moans. Her lies. Laura covered her mouth with both hands and gasped. Oh God. Please. Turn it off. Please. No one moved. We watched until the end. Until there was nothing left to deny. When it was over, I looked at her. This is who you became. And this, I gestured to our children, is who you destroyed in the process. She broke down completely then. Mike. I love you. Please. I made a mistake. I'll do anything to fix this. I stood. Emotion drained from my voice. You'll sign the papers. You'll take the settlement $5,000. Enough to start over. That's all. She blinked, disbelieving. 5,000. You can't do that. I have rights. You had rights. I interrupted quietly. You had love, loyalty, and a family. And you traded all of it for a few hotel rooms and a lie. Connor's voice joined mine. He's being generous. Mom, take it and go. She looked around the room, desperate for mercy, but found none. Even Sophie, with tears in her eyes, turned away. Laura's sobs filled the silence, raw, guttural, hopeless. For years, she'd been the center of this home. Now, she was just gone. When she finally stood, her voice was barely a whisper. Where am I supposed to go? I met her haze. Anywhere that isn't here. She nodded slowly, defeated. And as she walked out the door, the weight in the room lifted, not joy, not triumph. Just quiet closure. I didn't feel victorious. I felt finished. That's the thing about betrayal. It doesn't end with anger. It ends with clarity. And that night, for the first time in months, I slept without the sound of doubt in my head. A week later, I thought it was all over. The papers were signed. The house was quiet again. Laura had moved out. And for the first time in months, peace didn't feel like an illusion. But peace never lasts long when truth still has a pulse. It started with a knock on Sophie's bedroom door. She looked pale, her phone clutched in her hand. Dad, she whispered. Something happened. The video. The one I'd told her to send only to me somehow. It was online. Her friend Angela had seen it, thought it was a rumor, and shared it before realizing what she'd done. By morning, it wasn't just a rumor. It was everywhere. Local Facebook groups, Twitter threads, Reddit. Thousands of comments. People gasping, judging, dissecting. The names were blurred at first, but the internet never stops digging. By evening, they'd found Laura's profile, then Robert Lang's. Both of their lives unraveled in real time. Laura's friends cut her off. Her family refused her calls. Robert's wife filed for divorce within 48 hours, emptied his accounts, took the kids, changed her last name online. It wasn't me. I didn't make a single call. I didn't share a single link. I didn't destroy her. The truth did. And that's the thing about betrayal. Once it's seen, it can't be unseen. Once the mask slips, there's no putting it back on. The world didn't punish Laura because she cheated. It punished her because she lied to the one person who never thought she could. And when the dust finally settled, there was nothing left to say. Justice had spoken, not through vengeance, but through exposure. 6 months later, the house feels different, calmer, lighter, honest. It's a Saturday afternoon, the kind of day I used to take for granted. The grill sizzles softly on the back porch. The smell of charcoal. The sound of my kids laughing inside. Evan's finishing his MBA. Connor just got promoted. Sophie's in her last semester of nursing school. They've healed in ways I didn't think possible. We all have. Laura's name rarely comes up anymore. When it does, it's quiet, not with bitterness, but with distance. Like talking about someone we used to know. I've learned that peace doesn't arrive with fanfare. It slips in quietly one morning. When you realize you can breathe again without replaying the past. I used to wonder what she felt if she missed us. If she regretted anything. But then I stopped wondering. Because it doesn't matter. She thought she'd found freedom. I found peace. I kept the house. The savings. The memories worth keeping. The rest I let go, sometimes at night. I sit on the porch with a drink in hand, watching the sun drop behind the trees. And I think about everything that was lost, and everything that was found after. Betrayal doesn't define you, your response does. I didn't forgive her. I outgrew her, and that's the truth most people don't want to admit. You can't rebuild trust with someone who traded it for a moment of pleasure. But you can rebuild yourself. Stronger, wiser, untouchable. These days, the laughter in this house is real again. The peace is quiet. But it's earned. And when I look at my kids, I don't see victims, I see survivors. Maybe one day I'll love again. Maybe I won't. Either way, I'm fine. Because the man who walked out of that hotel room finally came home. Brothers, if you were me, would you have forgiven her? Or let the truth set you free? Tell me in the comments below. And if this story hit home, hit that like button and subscribe. Because every day, I share stories where men lose everything and rise stronger than ever. Thanks for listening. See you in the next one.